Across the line. That's Sandy McClellan, and ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Welcome now. Hello, Sandy.
Hi, David. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. So glad you could come and join us today from across the bay over there. Understand it's a little bit later in the day than it is here. You're what, about a little after 11 o'clock at night?
It's 11 o'clock at night. Rock and roll time, David.
Absolutely, and we're so glad you're here rocking and rolling with us. I did not exaggerate in the opening. When I first heard that song, I had to go back and listen to it a couple more times, and I said, I want to get this gentleman on the show. I just love the song. It's a great song, Sandy.
Thank you very much. In fact, it's a true story, David. I'm originally from Glasgow. I live in London now. And I had a couple of friends in Glasgow when I was much younger, one of whom married a girl, and funnily enough, he was a bass player, and the other friend was also a bass player, and we were kind of in local bands together and that sort of thing. And the three of us were pretty close. We were pretty close friends, and then somewhere along the line, my friend who married this very beautiful girl discovered that she'd fallen in love with our mutual friend who'd fallen in love with her, and they ran off hoping to be happily ever after. Didn't quite pan out, but it was a kind of interesting story for a while. I found myself trying to referee and explain to people that this was all a bad idea and it wouldn't end well. And it's just one of the things, like most of the songs I write, pretty well all the songs I write are either 100% factually accurate and bits of my own thinking about life in general in the world, or situations that I've been aware of at some point in time that I thought were interesting.
Well, I love the video that goes along with it, too, which, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, basically shots of Sandy driving, well, it doesn't matter where, just driving in his car, singing the song and the thoughts that are going through his head at the time. That's a very expressive video, and what you just said sort of fits in with what you have said on other occasions, something to the effect of, I need it simple and emotional, just a few chords, a real melody, and some words which mean something to me. And I think that pretty much sums it up. You can feel that in your lyric.
Yeah. Thank you, man. That's my philosophy. That's definitely my philosophy. That's where I live now. And I'm a man of a certain age, and I've worked in the music industry, for want of a better title, since very late 70s. And I've done all sorts of things in all sorts of territories along the way. I've worked with many, many different artists. And I had reached a point a while back where I thought I had drifted into doing some film scores, and I was writing things for orchestras, and I got to the place where I thought if I made my music very complicated, people would think I was clever, I was intelligent, and they'd like it for that. And then about 3 years ago, I just sat down one day and said to my partner, Dee, who works with me off and on in the live show, no, do you know, I've sort of had it with this now. What I really like is a song that's got 5 chords and a simple melody and something that offers me a vehicle to express something that means something to me. And so that's where I am now. That's what I'm doing. I've stopped all the other stuff. I've enjoyed it along the way, and now I'm trundling around with a guitar, sometimes my little band, and singing these songs to people from the album, which comes out in about 5 weeks' time.
I'll be looking forward to that. What's the album title?
The album's called Cross the Line. Cross the Line is the title track for the album.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen,
yeah.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Sorry, man. There's a little bit of a delay, which makes it awkward for us. There's 13 songs on the album, and I believe the first shipment of CDs arrives with me this week, so it's quite an exciting time at my end, David.
I understand that completely, and I'm excited for you, especially having already heard some of your music, and we're going to be playing another track in a few minutes. Before we move on, and I know John Bon Jovial wants to get in here and ask a question or make a statement or both, tell us where they can find your album when it's available, because I want the listeners to be able to pick it up.
Okay, I think what people have to do at this point is just keep an eye on my website. We're not exactly certain who's going to be doing the legwork for us in America. We have it sorted out in the UK and in some places in Europe. But if people keep an eye out, if anybody's interested in what they're hearing on your show, if they just have a look at www.sandymcclellan.com, all information will be there. You can buy records directly from me, of course, if you want, but there will be an established route to get it out there in America. We're just not finalized that as yet.
Fantastic. And also, listeners, you can, Sandy, if you want, you can feel free to send me the information, and I'll be happy to pass it on. I also have a page on Facebook that is simply the David Bowers Awards. You can post the information there directly when the album is available, and that's what that page is there for. Guests on my show to post their music news, their releases, tour dates, whatever. So feel free to go ahead when you have the information, post it on there, and let's see if we can get some more people to give a listen to your tunes. John Bon Jovial, you wanted to jump in.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Sandy, congratulations on really a fine piece of music. Nice song, it really is. David will tell you
Thanks, John.
Oh, sure. David will tell you that it is rare that I will get to preview the music before the show, because he always wants my honest opinion of, and first impression of the song. And I do like it. I love the production values on it, and I'm trying to determine influences that may have crossed your path as you were coming up with Cross the Line. And to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, or if you this hadn't occurred to you, I hear three influences in this. I hear strains of a couple of country musicians, Eddie Rabbitt and Don Williams, but I also hear an influence from the original Fleetwood Mac, one Peter Green, in the style of music. And to me, it's a really, really interesting mashup of inspiration or influence, call it what you will. And I'm kind of curious, how did you come up with this song, and what influenced you?
It's quite astute, actually, John, because the names you mentioned, A. Rabbit, Don Williams, Peter Green, they're all people whose work I have admired and do admire greatly. The songs, I mean, for me, the songwriting is much more about perspiration than inspiration. I can get a kernel of an idea. I get a little piece of something that I think's interesting, and then I just have to kind of whittle away at it. It takes me a long time. I'm lucky in that I have my own studio, and I can spend time in there indefinitely and just keep kind of chiseling away. Influences are interesting for me because I grew up in the 60s in Glasgow, which at that time, and still is, was a huge trading port with America. And so if you weren't particularly interested in kind of 60s British music, and there's a lot of it I loved. I loved the Beatles, and I loved the Rolling Stones and whatever. There was a lot of it that I didn't enjoy. The only kind of exposure as a young kid that you had in Glasgow to kind of things of an independent nature would come in with sailors who were bringing, were trading tobacco and sugar and those sort of things. The city was awash with country music and black sort of soul music at that time. And I think that those were the two things that I heard at home. It was all country music. It was Hank Williams. It was early Jim Reeves. It was whatever. It was Marvin Gaye. It was little Stevie Wonder, those things. And I think probably I've decided to call my music Indie-Cana because it has a kind of dual American flavor. I think it does have some of those country influences that you're talking about, and it does have some blues leanings in some of the construction, as well as quite a lot of sort of soulful influence.
Yeah, it really does.
It's not...
No, go ahead.
It's not intentional. Yeah, it's just the way it is for me. It's just how I grew up.
To me, it has a fullness.
My mother loved Patsy Cline.
Yeah, it has a fullness about it that I don't think it's because of the way that the music has technically been produced, and whether it's an analog or a digital studio, but the way that you have created the arrangement. There's a certain fullness that is, to me, is hard to explain how to do it, but when I hear it, I know it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I can explain to you how to do it either, John, because... Sorry, man.
No, that's okay.
Now, I was just going to say, I think I know what John's trying to say, because I'm catching a kind of the same thing, at least in my perspective. It has a fullness of sound and body, but at the same time, it has a very elegant simplicity to it. And in this particular track, I'm also getting a very, very heavy hint, a kind of a mysterious melody to it, and it's really a nice pairing of feelings.
Thank you, man. I'm not even sure I can explain to you myself what the production technique is. I mean, it's just very much a craft industry that I'm doing here. I write it, I play it. For the most part, I play everything. I'm sat in the studio on my own, day after day, week after week, month after month. And sometimes I'm like a kid dragging his finger around in a pot of paint colours, not quite knowing what it is. And then the picture comes into focus. You suddenly see something that you like. It can be a bit like that for me. It can be quite trial and error. I mean, I play lots of things a bit. I can play guitar a bit and some piano. I can drum a bit. I can play bass. I'm not the best player in the world, but I sort of know what it is I'm reaching for, and I'm happy to be tucked away just doing it till it feels right. But it's a very organic process. I don't have a kind of a schedule of works. I don't have a whole arrangement in my head when I sit about recording back.
Well, I think you summed it up with one phrase there. It feels good, and I think that seems to do it. You have a feel for what you want to say and the music you want to say it with, and you express that very well. There is a feeling there, and I think the listener can feel it along with you, and that's a good connection to make, because if you connect with the listener, you've done your job.
Yeah, I mean, it's thrilling. Already, I suppose I'm out doing some little shows, and the feedback is very good. It's very positive. People are following on social media. There's some traction beginning to already kind of develop, and that's wonderful. I mean, the thing for me is I'm sort of not waiting to be discovered. If people like it, it is of course a joy. But what
Sure.
What it is for me is that I love doing it. It's the doing of it's the thing I love. If it doesn't make me any money, then so be it. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do.
And that's a repeat theme that we hear from so many of the successful artists that we've had on the show. And I know Joe Bounsell of the Oak Ridge Boys was one of the first to express this to me on the show, and that was the fact that if you're in it for the music, you're in the wrong business. If you're in it because you love what you do, then you're right where you belong. And I think that applies to you, Sandy. I think you're in the right business for the right reasons, and it shows up in your works. Now, before we let you go, I want to give you a moment to talk about this. We got about 1 minute. Tell us about this next track we're going to hear called We Always Will.
This song is a remembrance for me, and it's the story of one night late in August when I was about 17, and I just bought my first old motor car. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was an American. And we drove out the city of Glasgow, and we drove right out into the dark, and we were eventually on the side of Loch Lomond. And in the way you do when you're 17 and you're confident that you've met the person you're supposed to be with to infinity and beyond, we sort of sat there and on the shore all night and made a plan for the rest of our lives, and slept, and it was just a wonderful thing. I mean, we didn't make it to the rest of our lives. Unfortunately,